Brent Leary.
Paul Greenberg, or somebody resembling him.
Yeah, good resemblance too.
Well, I work hard at it.
We are the CRM Playaz, and we are doing like everybody else still, sheltering in place.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, it's not like the most uncomfortable thing ever or anything here, but it's not, stay out of harm's way, help where you can, and beyond that, eating, drinking, talking, kind of normal life.
You know what? I just did a contactless delivery, and I'm telling you, there are certain instances once you go contactless, you don't go back.
Yeah, no, that's some actually weird implications, but I'll leave them alone.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for putting that in my head for the rest of my life.
Oh, well, sometimes when you're cooped up by yourself for lots of time.
What else? What can you do? Contactless delivery.
Hey, so we actually got a cool show. We've got some great folks coming up. We've got, I love the Twitter name for Bob Stutz. His Twitter name is CRM Guru of CRM.
Fair enough. You know what? He's one of the few guys who can actually say it, and you're not going to go saying, you don't look at it and go, who the hell does he think he is, right? In this case, he can actually say that.
So he'll be coming up in a few minutes. He is the new president of SAP CX. It's pretty cool. And we got to ask him what it's like to go home again.
Yeah, well, home, sort of. Waldorf, Germany is not home though.
Yeah,
that level. But yeah, no, there's a lot to ask this dude, man.
Yeah. And then if that weren't enough, then we have Bill Patterson, who we've known for a long time.
Since he was about 6 years old.
He was the EVP and GM of Salesforce's CRM applications.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Both of them are ex-Microsoft.
Yes.
And not only that, Bill worked for Bob at Microsoft.
Yes. How did that work out for them to both be on this show, one after the other?
That was literally, actually, although I mean, Bob actually was wondering if he was going to be on with Bill, which he would have loved, but I told him, nah, you can't be really. Just because of the way we set the show up. And I said, if you want to wait, you can. But he said, nah, I don't think that would work. So, well, I mean, those two are, not only are they both amazing at what they do, but they're also really close friends too. So,
which is cool.
Yeah. This is one of those super, show full of, it's like America's Got Talent, but with all the winners, the Champions Edition, right? And super collegial.
I was going to say we're doing college stuff now.
Yeah, that's right. Super collegiate. I wear my Northwestern sweatshirt.
Now, before we get to those two great folks, we want to do a little, shout out, because yesterday we had our second. Are we still calling it the CRM Playaz Happy Hour? There's some folks who want to call it the Magic Hour.
And they can call it what they want.
You can.
We can call it what we want.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a Magic Hour, I think you made a very important point about calling it the Magic Hour yesterday when we were talking, and why that wouldn't exactly be a great idea given the
if there's any folks as old as we are, they might remember in the early 90s there was a show called the Magic Hour, and it was hosted by one Irvin Magic Johnson. And let's just say that show didn't have a lot of magic, or maybe it had a lot of magic because it disappeared in 6 episodes.
Right, as the saying goes, keep your day job.
Yes.
Pretty successful everywhere else, but they are still calling ours the Magic Hour is actually, while meant to be a huge compliment, is a complete insult.
Yeah.
And plus, we have 39 episodes planned, not 6. So,
and it was actually, I thought it was great yesterday.
yeah.
And we had what, 15, 16, 17 folks?
We actually had 17, not including us. We had 17 attendees because we oversubscribed it by opening up the VIP rope and letting a couple of people in. Right.
Yeah.
So I think we want to do a shout out.
Let's do a shout out.
All right. Now, I'm not going to mention titles, so you guys will have to guess on all this. But you may know some, you may not. So this is just, I'm reading you the list. It's the way it's set up on Eventbrite, so don't hold me to anything. Jeff Brown, Mike Boyson, Peter Grams, Brian Curran, James Norwood, Raymond Howington, Aaron Spinley, Samir Patel, Ben Becker, Everton Annunciacio, John Tashik, Sahil Chowdhury, Mike Rutherford, Danny Weinstein, Donnie Weinstein, excuse me, Sandy Lowe, and Caitlin Fornell. You were all awesome. And I will tell you one thing that was cool about that group. It was a very mixed group. There was a lot of very senior people at very large enterprises, and there were a number of people who ran their own consultancies, and then there were a number of people who were kind of working for smaller companies or ran even smaller companies. But all in all, just a great mix of people having a good old time. And I will tell you this. So right now, we have 2 tickets available for the 29th, I think. And that's it for that. And then we have, after that, we have tickets available, but we have people registering all the way out to July 15th.
Wow.
And for some reason, Eventbrite just showed one of its flaws because we had oversubscribed and went 17 tickets sold. Now they're assuming that we're doing 17 for all the events.
Wow.
Yeah, but we're not. As far as we actually, according to this, we have 4 tickets left for May 6th. I'm sorry, we're sold out otherwise.
That's kind of interesting. So it's almost sort of like we're getting like a live studio audience, like instead of them having to travel to New York and sit in front of like Whoopi and the other folks from The View. This is easy.
I know. And the one difference, of course, is we're not giving away prizes.
No, we're not. No. Let me make I had a couple of quick notes about yesterday's happy hour, magic hour, whatever you want to call it, hour. Actually, from what I heard, it was an hour and a half. So that's
right, magic hour. It was the happy hour and a half. It was the happy hour and the even more.
The other half hour was
okay.
It was sorry. So here's a couple of notes. We had folks from Australia and India and I think Germany somewhere. So we had like 3 or 4 or 5 continents covered by those folks.
Right? And in fact, the first week we had, we had Malaysia and we had Australia and we had Switzerland this week. No, was it this week? No, last week. No, this week. No, last week. Switzerland, and there was a couple other countries too. I mean, we're getting a global audience, and it's kind of why we chose the time because
kind of fun.
Supports every continent too.
All right. Second note. I had no idea before I read this yesterday morning before we did our hour thing that our buddy Sandy Lowe is like a prodigy pianist. She started playing like at 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say, I think she's a virtuoso piano player. I had no idea.
So I will tell you this. So on Vinnie Merchandani's blog, on his New Florence blog, Sandy not only wrote a piece on why she, her piano and how she learned and why she plays, but she also recorded 6 clips, and it ranges from a clip of Dear Evan Hansen, You Will Be Found, to Mozart piano sonatas 11 and 12, like that. So, and then Phantom of the Opera, a few other things. It's worth listening to, and I will be putting up a clip next Monday on my on my hopeful news number 3 blog post on ZDNet, which will be the Mozart Sonata number 11, because about time you people got some classical music in your hearts and souls. About time you heard some of that stuff.
Leave it to the players to bring you some class.
That's right. That's our job.
All right. So yeah, that's the second note. The third note.
That's those who can't teach one.
Right. The third note was, this was cool. So we had Samir Patel on, who is heading up global market strategy for SAP, just started. And he did a shout out and gave a great new nickname to John Tashik, who has been, he's kind of like the godfather of market strategy.
Yeah, it kind of is, really. He's the man.
But Samir gave him the title of the OG of market strategy. Ooh. I like that. That's cool.
All right, so JT, you're now the OG of market strategy for now and forever. And when Bill Patterson is on later today, we will make sure he brings that back to John.
That's right.
That is branded for life.
He is the OG of market strategy. He even rhymes, so that's even cooler. And the last note before we go to our guest, we got to do some more filtering because we're getting way too many Boston sports fans on these things.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, every time I look up, they're not only just there, they're there and they're really proud and they're loud and it's just so annoying.
And there was, I think we've had 2 each time, didn't we?
That ratio is not good. 2 out of 17. That's
no,
more than
no. That's like roughly 2 too many.
We got to recruit some more folks. So if you want to join us on the next, well, maybe not the next one, that probably already filled with a bunch of Boston sports fans, but there are some upcoming weeks where they haven't been totally filled out, whatever. So if you aren't a Boston sports fan and you would like to do a happy hour with the players, by all means, how do they do that?
Well, if you go to LinkedIn now, if you're connected with us, or Facebook, the URLs are up there. I think they're also on. I think they're on the CRM Playaz page, but they're also on mine, and I think on yours too. So there's plenty. And if you want one, and you're listening to the show now or later, put it underneath on the notes here, and then I'll make sure you get it.
All right. So that's cool. That's what we want to talk about. Because now I think we're ready to bring on our very special first guest. Let me add him to the show. There he is.
Oh, wow. Oh, you're a day early. You're wearing your NHL jersey.
Is that? I thought that was like an Indiana Pacers kind of thing.
It's a Buffalo Sabres jersey.
God almighty, Brent.
Okay.
How did you make that mistake?
Well, Buffalo was okay. I'm sorry.
No. But look at literally the thing like in his neck.
Oh, now I see it. I saw the color scheme and I saw 15. I didn't see the big NHL thing right there.
So Bob's new job, by the way, is the CEO of the Sabres.
All right, so
that's the dream job.
Paul,
next thing you have to fix.
I need you to introduce him because you guys go way, way back.
Yeah, well, listen, man. I mean, I got to tell you something. All right, so first of all, you have to understand, like, this is amazing that Bob's even on this show because A, he doesn't like doing shows, period, and B, he's Bob Stutz, right? And I've made this argument before, and I actually made it before I even knew him, that if it weren't for him, you could actually make a legitimate case that there would be no CRM industry. He is a pioneer in the industry. He's basically taken every single company he's ever been at. There's one that he probably shouldn't have been at, but Siebel, Microsoft, SAP again, Salesforce, and he does one of two things: he either makes them or he fixes them. But each time he builds out something that makes billions of dollars, and then moves and fixes the next one. And back in the Siebel days, he created technology we now call CRM, you could point to him specifically as that. And plus, he's a legend in the industry. He's extremely like a big name in the industry. Scares people too, and yet, guy has a heart of 24 karat gold. A lot of people don't like to admit that about themselves, but I'm admitting it for him here. So, and he really does have that kind of heart. So he's one of the nicest, and also, from a personal and a business standpoint, one of the most loyal people I've ever met in my entire life. So good luck on living up to all of that.
Seriously.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell you're going to say from here on, but you're in real trouble.
I'll just add this. Whenever I see Bob at a conference, I always look at the shoes and I always look at the style. He has a serious style that you don't see any other CRM vendor executive with. So I appreciate that as well.
Plus, unlike any other CRM executive I've ever met, he is a Buffalo Sabres.
and a Buffalo Bills fan.
Yeah, that too.
Oh, wow.
Well, see, the thing is, good side of that is neither of them are obnoxious teams.
Right.
Neither of them. And in fact, the Bills are you kind of root for them when you watch them. I mean, I do. It's like if I'm watching a Bills, not Giants game, I tend to root for the Bills. Not Rams. I don't root for them when they're playing the Rams or the Packers either. But beyond those teams, but normally I don't even play them that much. So, but let's say this. On the AFC side, I root for the Bills all day and night, even over the Jets. I still managed to keep my New York sorry, Alan. I still managed to keep my New York roots strong there. So, you're unique in many ways. So, got a question for you, though.
Sure.
With SAP in 2007, you built the actual first genuine SAP CRM as opposed to what they used to call CRM back there. And I remember seeing it, Google-like interface. And I remember I didn't even know you well. I met you, I think, once, maybe then, twice. And I saw this and I wrote about it too, saying finally SAP has a CRM that can actually call one, and it's a good one. Now you're back. What's the mission? What's the purpose? Why'd you go back, as you and I have discussed?
I have this thing about, I guess you could say it's about, there has to be balance in the industry. I really do believe that. I think you have to have, more than just sort of one dominant player. You need to have multiple players in the space, right?
So have you decided you were sort of going to create all of them? Since you kind of do that?
It just ended up that way, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've succeeded in every place you've been. So
look, I've tried to retire a few times, actually.
Yeah, I know it. So let me ask you, so what is your game plan? I mean, let's say this, as far as you're allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
What is your game plan for CX at SAP? Because look, honestly, there's no shortage of talent at that company. There's actually a number of genuinely brilliant people there and who have been there for a long time and have actually built really interesting and, good things. But SAP still has struggled over the last several years. And now here you are. And my expectation is you'll solve whatever it is. But what is it that you're trying to do? And what is it that you can talk about that you're already feel that you've gotten into motion?
Well, look, there are some good assets there, right? And it's really just taking those assets and building them out much better than what they are today, right? I mean, look at Hybris. Hybris was the best commerce platform on the market when SAP acquired them, right? And, we have some things coming out the end of this year that I think will be pretty mind-blowing. And, we tend to work pretty fast, but, with Esteban on strategy, it takes a little while because he's always having to write on the board, I will be a nice person in meetings.
He's watching, by the way. I just want to
He's doing more than one.
He is definitely. He's already commenting. He's already commenting. So wow. Okay.
Yeah, because that actually took away my question of, one of your first moves was to bring Esteban on board, and a lot of people question that wisdom. So I don't know.
Look, he's one of the. Look, he's got a great mind for this space, and I think he has a different approach to it. He thinks differently. And as you know, I like people who can stand up for themselves, and Esteban is, he's one of those people that is going to tell you how it is and not mix words about it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is that the two of you together, actually, from my standpoint, look, again, when I'm looking at, dispassionately, which is hard, but when I'm stepping back and looking at leadership in general, in different companies around the industry, the two of you together make a really, really powerful combination of visionaries. And see, that's really the difference. Look, I mean, you build products and you have for a long time, but the one thing that a lot of people don't realize, I think, about you, and I think, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on this too, is you are actually a visionary. You're not just an engineer, right? Or a guy who runs engineers, right? You're a visionary, and you have always been, and you're always not only aligned with the market, but thinking, look, I think anyone who actually tries to build bleeding edge is an idiot. I think anyone who builds leading edge is not an idiot, right? You're a leading edge guy. So when you're thinking, and Esteban, of course, is totally attuned to all of that. So when you're thinking and you guys are developing your strategy and you're outlining your approach, how do you account for the leading edge as opposed to just kind of building the things that customers are either demanding or customers, the old thing about customers don't.
Yeah, there's always a balance to it, right? You still have to sell what you currently have while you're figuring out what the future is going to be, right? And it really is a balancing act, because you have some tactical things that you have to do to make it look better, make the software better, right? Make customers happy. But where you really have to focus is on the mid to long term, and really thinking. Look, the reality is, in this industry, it takes 12 to 18 months for a new product to actually take off in the industry, right? If you think about, by the time you get out there, you start marketing it, you start, talking to customers about it, right? And before you really start to even sell it, it takes 12 to 18 months to get that momentum going, right? So you have to think about, if you're going to build something, you can't build it for today. You got to build it for 2 years out, because if you don't, it won't sell. You'll be behind by the time the product actually starts to take off, right?
Let me ask you, so relative to that, when you were at Microsoft, I remember you took the product, you basically threw it out, and then in 9 months you had turned it around completely. And it was 9 months, which is easily, and then you made Microsoft seriously competitive, right? It wasn't just you built something else. You made it a seriously competitive company. So my question is, how do you take us in your head a little bit on this one? How do you mobilize like that? I mean, that's a monstrous. I mean, you're not only dealing with, building the product, you're dealing with a lot of people who don't want to build that product, right? And you have to and don't want you to succeed at that, because they've been doing it. They look bad, they think, which is not true ultimately, but they look bad, they think, if you do. So how do you actually, what do you take into account? How do you plan, and what do you do to turn something around that fast that's genuinely competitive?
Well, it's really about building the right team from the beginning, right? That's the key to the whole thing, right? It's not a one-person job at the end of the day. You have to have the right team, and that's step number one, right? Step number two is you then really have to look at your competitors, right? Look at the seams. Where's the cracks, right? Where can you make a difference? difference, right? Because you don't want to be just another Me Too player at the end of the day, right? Because there's too much of that in this industry already, right? And so it's finding those seams, building the things that were, very different, right? And then you hit the market with it, right? And you continue to build it out, and look, it really is about the team. It's having a group of people who can. I have this philosophy. You have to be able to get in a room together, sort of, be able to verbally beat the hell out of each other, come to an understanding of
why you scared so many people
of a product, and then you figure out how do you do it, right? But it's not, people always think, well, it's this. The process is very different for me. It has to be one of, I only hire people that can argue really well with me at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've always had a team like that.
I really believe that you need people who can think on their own, aren't afraid to speak up, and I've had some really, one of the big things for me is hiring people that I know will be successful, right, and go on to bigger things, right? Your next guest is one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Who work for me, right? There's quite a few in the industry who have pretty amazing jobs and CEOs of companies, and it's really just teaching people about execution, right? It's about strategy and execution. It's what it boils down to at the end of the day, right? It's not rocket science, right? I mean,
but the thing that I mentioned earlier, which is what you're describing here, is you have a lot of people who are very, not only you loyal to them, and you actually are helping. You actually think of it from the standpoint of not just them working with you, but also you helping them build their career. But you're also, not only are they loyal to you, but you're very loyal to them. And so, for example, I was speaking with a chief something officer, I'm leaving it out deliberately, at a company who had left SAP not even a year ago. And we were talking, and she said to me that if she had known you were going to be at SAP, she wouldn't have left. She thinks of you as her mentor and the person. And I will tell you another thing, which not that many people know of. I mean, as you know, on this part, SAP's had a million changes in CRM and CX, etc., leadership over the years. Several years ago, this is before you came back, I was at an SAP Insider meeting, and they had just had another change at the time. Really nice guy. And I realized that there was like the seventh change in a year or something. I wasn't more than a year, but it was really a lot of change. And I asked 12 executives at the SAP Insider meeting without mentioning a single name, CRM related executives, without mentioning a single name. I said, if you could work for any one of the leadership you've had from the beginning, who would you work for again? And 12 out of 12 said you. And I didn't give them a name. It's not like I gave them you as an option. I didn't mention any names. And I asked them why, because at that point, as far as anyone knew, you're just terrifying, right? So, and so, well, it's true. I mean, they saw you, was like, oh my God, right? So, and they said two things about you, which was really telling. One is, if you did something wrong, you knew it. But then this was the key. They said, but if you did something right, you knew it too, right? They said, and we could trust him because he always told us the truth. And that was pretty much uniformly the 12 out of 12. I asked like 5 of them why, right? So,
all right. I want to jump in since he's a guy that you say will always tell you the truth. I just got to ask him because I want a truthful answer to this. Have you ever in your life rooted for the New England Patriots?
I have never in my life. I am from Buffalo.
No, he's on our side.
There it is. I just had to get that out there.
He wouldn't be my friend if he was.
All right. I have
a Yankees fan too, by the way. Just
well, that's
make sure we go a little further here.
All right. So I just want. This is kind of a more serious question. I mean, you've been in the industry since its beginnings. You're one of the founders. you've experienced a lot, but one thing you haven't experienced, or at least I don't think you have, or any of us have, is what's going on currently with the pandemic and the things, the tragedy that it's wreaking, but it's also wreaking a lot of structural changes, behavioral changes that are going to take place to this. So with all that as a background, how does what we go through right now, how is that changing your approach? Anything that you think about as you look at what you're doing at SAP?
I think, for me, it's always about how do you help customers run their business better at the end of the day, right? And how do you help them take care of their customers in a better way, right? And so everything that I work on and think about, and as far as building, is all around that at the end of the day, right? I've gotten accused many times because I literally have this philosophy around software that most people don't agree with, but I don't think customers should have to pay for software till it's up and running and actually implemented and working. And, I've always believed that. I believe, I'm not a fan of subscription model. I actually, I've had that discussion with Ray Wang many times about, I'm a firm believer in that this industry will shift sooner or later to a pay-as-you-use model, because I don't think that subscriptions, and these are my own opinions, not those of this company or any other company that I previously worked for. But I do believe the industry has to shift. I believe that at some juncture, I really believe subscriptions have become the new perpetual license. And I don't think, subscriptions solve the problem of the perpetual license. But, in this industry, history repeats itself over and over again. And I think what we're seeing is that the subscription has become the new perpetual license. And I think the model in itself lends itself to not being sustainable for a long time, because I think sooner or later customers will not want to pay for a piece of software that they use once a week or once a month or every couple weeks. I don't think that they'll pay for that going forward, actually, to be quite honest.
Wow.
So you're kind of proposing a utility model, really?
It's I wouldn't say it's a utility model, but it's more of a, look.
I'm not hearing you sound.
Especially if SFA, on the SFA side, right? Think about SFA. I'm a sales guy. I may use the product maybe once a week, twice a week. I'm probably not using it every day. And if I do use it every day, it's for a very limited amount of time, right? So why not pay for the amount of time you use, right? It's no different than the hyperscalers, right? You pay for what you use, right? You're paying for that compute time. Why would software not be any different at the end of the day, right?
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's like the Amazon Web Services approach. You pay as you use, basically.
That's right.
Mm.
And I actually believe it would force companies in this industry to build better products. It would keep companies from putting out substandard products into the market, because if you have to pay as you use, you want people to use it more and more and more. So it's going to force you to think twice about what you build and how you build it at the end of the day.
We should put that out as a question to people, actually.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
He dropped that on us right as we have to wrap up and let him go.
I'll tell you what, you willing to come back on to talk that one through?
Absolutely. Gee.
I don't do these things very often. I'm only doing it because I felt guilty because I didn't make it to Atlanta in February. I felt really guilty about that.
Well, good. Well, I'm Jewish, you're Jewish, so I'll keep playing on your guilt.
Hey, guilt works.
That's not a problem. There's literally no problem.
Hey, so
I've got to come back on to talk about the utility.
I'd be happy to.
All right, and we'll get some feedback and other people involved on that.
Yeah. So this is awesome. Great. Before we let you go, because we're asking people this for the sports show. I didn't even tell Paul about this. So who is your all-time favorite professional sports athlete?
Any sport.
Any sport.
Jim Kelly.
You know what? That's a decent choice, man.
Toughest quarterback there ever was.
Beat cancer too.
He was Kelly Strong, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
He is.
I got you. To
Wasn't afraid to take a hit. Wasn't afraid to tackle. Wasn't afraid,
and still stayed a good guy throughout it all.
yeah.
Throughout it all, he still lives in upstate New York. Great guy. And the fact that he beat cancer and
he did, man. I remember it was kind of touch and go at one point, but he look at him.
And the way that they handled his whole thing with his son. I mean, that was really amazing.
Yeah. You know what? Good choice, sir. Yeah,
I'm not going to knock that. Plus, he went to the University of Miami. He's a U guy, so I kind of like that too. Hey, Bob, this has been great. The next time you have one of those face-to-face meetings with Esteban and it gets heated, just give him an elbow.
I just hang up on him.
Thanks again, Bob. This has been great. We definitely look forward to doing this again.
All right. Take care. Sir.
Okay.
Man.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
That was awesome. And he gave us really something to think about too.
I'm kidding. I didn't need that. That was a new thing. I didn't even nothing.
No, I wasn't ready for that one. But then again, that's why he's the guru of CRM.
That's right. That's his Twitter handle, everybody.
That is.
He doesn't want you to know, but he got back on Twitter because SAP wants him on. He doesn't like doing these things. However, you should follow him on Twitter.
Absolutely. And I was serious when I told Bob one of these for Esteban the next time.
That was a good one. All right. Well, now I guess since we're gonna have Bill on in what?
Yeah. So let's do it. So this is the third of the watch list winners segments.
And this is the second winner with distinction.
Okay, so you got to just clarify winner. What is a winner with distinction mean?
So there are 3 levels of winning on the watch list. There's just winner. That's sort of winner chicken dinner version. Then there's winner with distinction, which is I call it good buttermilk fried chicken. And then there's elite. Nobody wins that, so there's nothing to literally align it with. But essentially, it's just how much. Look, it's an impact award. It's always been an impact award, and it basically is not only how much have you impacted the world you're in the year that you submit for, but how well built as a company are you to sustain that impact over a 3-year period after that. And if you can't meet both criteria, you don't win. Regardless, you might win one, but not the other. So what? You don't win. Being a winner with distinction means that you've been exceptional in a number of areas beyond just the norm. And when I say that, even the norm for a winner. To be elite, you have to be exceptional in almost everything. And it's really hard. In the past, we've had some. Salesforce at one point was a winner with an elite winner, but nobody meets the criteria anymore. And that's not a negative. It's just, first, they've made it a lot harder. And secondly, people compete in different ways now that they didn't compete with each other in the past and didn't impact the market. And the market's gotten bigger and it takes more. And some of the things you did that made impact that got you the elite level last time really are not all that unique anymore and really don't prove your strength as much as it used to, because pretty much a lot of other companies are doing something similar, whether you were the pioneer in it or not. So winner with distinction is the highest level I gave this year and last year. 3 of them, Thunderhead, Salesforce, and Microsoft were the 3. So we did Velocity the first week. We did them first because they were acquired and basically we had to do them before they just became Salesforce. Then we did Thunderhead last week, Salesforce this week, and then next week, and we'll talk about that at the very end, who's going to be on. We're doing Salesforce this week, and Brent. I'm sorry. Yeah, Salesforce this week.
Yeah, Salesforce this week,
right.
and then
Microsoft.
Yeah.
So let me sort of take the next few minutes and tell you why Salesforce became a winner of distinction. And what's interesting about them is that they have areas where they're extremely powerful, and the impact they drive is almost unimaginably strong, where other companies don't even do it vaguely right. And there are essentially three areas I'm going to go over today. I'll reference a fourth, but I'm going to go over three. One is their vision. Another one is their outreach program. And another one is the social good they actually do, which is a major component of what we do. Look, they're clearly, everyone knows who they are, which tells you the impact they have right off the bat. Everyone addresses them against everyone else, which tells you they're the alpha, right? And because they're the alpha, that again indicates impact. But what gets them there? What sustains them? Part of it is this is a genuinely visionary company. And when I say that, I don't mean they just have a cute or a poetic vision statement. I don't mean that the founder or CEO or whoever has very noble comments he makes at keynotes during the year. To be a truly visionary company, you not only have to have a genuinely visionary statement, but you have to have two other things that go with it. One is that when people hear it, they can go and listen to you talk about it, and then look at you as a company. They can go, huh, yeah, I can see myself doing that. And the second thing is that it permeates every single thing you do as a company. It's not marketing. It's a genuine statement of belief in what you want to see. Now, a lot of companies, in fact, the bulk of the companies, when you look at their vision statements, they tend to be name of company will be the number one company in the world in this. That's not a vision statement. That's an objective. That's a goal. It's a stupid goal, really, but it's a goal, right? But I'm going to read you Salesforce's vision statement explicitly. This comes from Mark Benioff originally, but this is the vision statement of the company. And this is it. The business of business is to make the world a better place. Period. Now, the only other vision statement which has been as precise and succinct as that, and at the same time, something that historically, permeated the entire company, was EY's, Ernst & Young, several years ago, when they said their vision statement was building a better business world, which is actually a narrower statement than what Salesforce is saying by a long shot. But at the same time, I'm not worried about the narrowness of it. I'm worried about your ability to state it, get buy-in, and then execute against it, which Salesforce does in that exact statement in every possible way, which is what makes them the brilliant company that they are. On the one hand, I want you to think of it this way. Look, in this crisis, you take a look at Salesforce, and here's their vision, right? The business is to make the world a better place. In this case, it almost means supporting a world that needs to heal itself at this point, right? With COVID-19. So what are they doing? They're not only doing Salesforce Cares and building the applications and the technologies that are necessary for, say, healthcare providers to communicate with health systems, or healthcare providers communicate with doctors, or doctors communicate with patients, and just putting the technology into play and then providing it to the systems and providing engineers to help you build out, and developers and the people to implement it, helping you put all that stuff up. But they're also doing the humanitarian side of the thing. So, for example, one thing that they've already done, aside from donate literally tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, it's closer to hundreds really, toward the effort to combat COVID-19, is they've, for example, distributed over 50 million personal protective equipment, PPEs, to different places. And they even did something which in normal times would be kind of hokey, but in this time is kind of inspirational. They literally took they got I don't know how they got it, but they got a 747 and flew it into New York, filled with the PPEs, and gave it out in New York City, right, to all the hospitals and frontline workers that are out there, protecting us at this point and saving us in a lot of cases. So they put their vision on the line, and they execute against that vision. That's one of the greatest strengths they have. The other thing they have is, when it boils down to it, look, we're analysts, okay? We're independent analysts. There's analysts in the world of Gartner, and Forrester and IDC, or institutional analysts. Then there's the boutique firms like Ray Wang and Bob's
Constellation.
the guy that Bob fights with, Ray Wang and Constellation Research. There was companies like Serious Decisions who were acquired by Forrester, but those kind of companies on the boutique side, and those are all analysts or market research firms. There's also, though, a group of people who are none of that and who are influential, right? But they're just influencers. They could be an industry influencer. They could be a brand influencer. They could be a technology influencer. They could just be a person who influences a particular kind of community. Like back in the day when Lauren Vargas, was at Aetna, she was a huge influencer and thought leader in the world of community, right? Or Rachel Happ now in that same world. The thing that makes Salesforce outreach program literally the best in the entire business, bar none as a program, is that they actually understand what I just said, right? That they understand that it's influencers that you try to, and they don't build a analyst relations program. They build an influencer program that's part of market strategy overall. What is the kind of global outreach we have to make to both impact people who have influence in areas that will allow them to become, in effect, gateways and pipelines to those areas on our behalf, which is ultimately the outcome that they want, right? They want favorable outcomes. But there's the other side with Salesforce, which is, look, I mean, it can be a hard-headed company, believe me. I mean, there's no question about that. And they love to know everything about what you're up to, but they listen, right? Because look, the other value of outreach is getting people to give you input. It's not just the outcome, but the input. And the thing is, they solicit input, and they do it a lot. I mean, and they solicit it from a wide swath of people, and then they get all this data and all this input and all this insight from external sources, and they don't say we're better than them or that they're stupid that they're saying that. They take it all seriously. They parse it, they identify it, they look at it, and then some of it, of course, they do whatever it is that was offered, right? They don't do all of it, and they shouldn't, really. It's not all right. Look, ultimately, despite the fact, I was reading this thing today.
By the way, we're ready for our guest. So,
it's already time. All right. Well, then let me get to the. Well, actually, no.
Let it go because he's listening. I can see he's listening, and I can see his nodding his head and laughing. So he's you're saying
literally got to wait. He's gonna have to wait 2 minutes because it's 3:48. All right, and I'm taking the 10 minutes. Now. So I actually identified the third was social. So social good, vision, outreach are three of the things that they are powerhouses. Look, they have one of the widest breadths and some of the deepest depth and scope of product I've ever seen. They have MuleSoft to integrate all of that. Bill can talk to some of that sort of stuff. There's one area where they do need to improve, and that's part of this discussion always, which is on the thought leadership side. Now, I will say this, two things about that. One, not this immediate second. Right, they can hold that in abeyance right now because they have to. Salesforce Cares is literally the most important thing they're doing. And secondly, though, there is an area where they do actually provide thought leadership very successfully. They don't recognize it themselves, which is philanthropy. They are the one-on-one program has been adopted by people all over the world, companies all over the world. So they have some. Treat that as a foundation for a much wider effort around thought leadership, which is an area which they actually suffer a great deal and need to begin to build out much more extensively once this thing starts to taper off and we can get some things under control.
And with that said, let me welcome in Bill.
Man,
there he is.
Okay, so scoot a little bit. I'm in the third of the column here, so let me scoot over just a little bit for us.
You're looking good, man. You're
yeah, but Bill, you're going to fail the question. You do know that, right?
Which question am I going to fail?
Go ahead, Brent. Well, he's going to fail one. He's going to fail part of it.
Okay.
So
I'm going to go with the one we asked Bob. We're doing a sports show now, CRM Playaz Sports, and tomorrow the question is, who is your all-time favorite sports athlete Doesn't matter what sport. Who is your absolute favorite person?
Yeah, following Derek Jeter, which I think is the right answer that I would not have.
It could be. I have to say it's a good answer.
My favorite answer is the hockey player Cam Neely, played for the Boston Bruins, shortened career, but really transformed much of the modern NHL that you see today.
Yeah, but let me get right down to the real question, which is, who's your favorite football team?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Who is your favorite National Football League football team?
Yeah, I grew up in Boston, so there's a theme here with Red Sox and Bruins, and then therefore my favorite football team would be the New England Patriots.
You actually realize that that's what gets you banned from the show.
I was going to say, and there's a theme that goes along with the CRM Playaz too, which is we can't stand those dudes.
I know. Well, look, this is we'll see what this year holds. With
it's not great.
Tom Brady.
Belichick, really. So, I didn't like him when he was a Giants coach. So, and I'm a Giants fan. So, it's like, I'm telling you, man, it's at least you made one appearance on the place.
Yeah. How are you guys doing today? I hope you're both safe and healthy. It's so great to see you.
Yeah, same. You too. And you look good. Everyone in the family, I presume, is all good.
We're doing well. Trying to do this homeschooling thing. My wife is a saint for all that she's been doing in this time for us. And we're getting by day by day. I think we had an unfortunate news. Some friends had passed on. One from the virus directly, and it's just sobering. But I think that as much as we can, it's making us all human and realize that we can all do our part. And we're just excited to maybe spend a little bit more time as a direct family without all this travel that I've been usually doing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, well, actually, which brings up a really look. You heard what I said about the company, but ultimately, given the current crisis and everything else, you guys are doing Salesforce Care, and that's a huge initiative. So, first question is, talk about that a little bit. I think people really need to hear about the scope of it because I don't think they quite understand how big a deal this is.
Yeah. So thanks for giving me a chance to come on and talk about it. Salesforce Care is probably been one of the fastest growing products ever for us. And it's not really something that we are, out marketing or selling at this point in time. In fact, we've made it available to organizations free of charge. It's essentially three things: helping companies take care of the care of their employees, helping organizations take care of their customers, and ultimately helping organizations take care of our communities. And we've created a set of pre-built applications and templates. You can go find them on salesforce.com. And our goal is to help you get up and running easily with speed, and then reach a scale using our cloud that just helps you address kind of wherever your business is pain points are right now. And I think it's a real testament to a lot of the innovation that goes on here at Salesforce, which is we can help, and that's been our mission from day one: is how do we help those that we can leave the world a better place with. I heard all the notes you had from backstage, and it was really fun to sit and listen to your dialogue on it. But I think that, really the values of the company remain, trusted communities, trusted, stakeholders, being able to help our customers manage success. And that's such a strange word in this time, but really taking their innovation for good and then ultimately create, a basis of equality that I think is not just words on the slide, but things that, we all believe for sure.
Let me ask you, you actually are, I guess people are now reporting to you from the Salesforce Essentials side of the house, which is really cool. And that's the area where I focus a lot on with the SMB folks. Have you heard any feedback? Are you hearing things from your SMB customers about the kinds of needs and maybe some of the things that they're facing and what they're looking to Salesforce for to help them kind of get through this path?
Yeah, Salesforce, a small business is the lifeblood of our economy. No matter what town you travel to in this country, even in other countries around the world, small business is what kind of makes those economies go. And yes, we've been there connected to Salesforce Care. We have a specific offering through Essentials, which is our product line designed for that segment of the market. And we've made a substantial donation working for small businesses, really to help them get on their feet, especially at this moment of time. So all the information, you can find out all the information on that on our website. But what we want to do is just be there because this is a crisis moment that we're in. There will be a recovery moment, and then there will be a reconciliation moment, later. And those vendors that are there not preying on the needs of small business, but they're really to help them get back on their footing, I think is ultimately where we're going to create the next set of great relationships for Salesforce and our customers.
So I want to let's take this. I want to take this to someone.
Is this okay? By the way, to I'm taking.
No, that's actually. You know what? That's Waterloo, right? Yeah, this is the one I like.
Yeah.
I like the cherry one, but I like Waterloo better than any of the other ones.
Bill,
I
as long as
100%.
it's not this
No, you still have that?
orange. It's the same thing. I never finished drinking it. I just sort of left it there. Do not ever try orange vanilla cherry Coke Zero. It is the worst. Don't do that.
Ringing endorsement from Brent Leary right there. Yeah, no, I agree, Paul. Waterloo. I did a blind taste test at my local Whole Foods when I was still okay to go into shopping stores, and this one certainly wins better than all the others I've tried anyway.
And all the other ones. Yeah, that miles better.
It's so pretentious to say Le Croix, but Waterloo, I think, is so much better.
LaCroix. So here's what I want to hear about. So you went to Salesforce, was it 3 years ago now?
Just about, yeah.
Okay, so 3 years ago you went to Salesforce, you were SVP and GM Service Cloud. Now, new promotion, EVP, more responsibilities, like a lot more. A, aside from the fact you did a great job, how'd that happen? And B, what is the new job in terms of how much? I mean, Service Cloud, that's easy to figure out. Now you got a lot more. So tell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. It's fantastic, and of course expected.
Well, thank you for the kind words. My job is really to think about the future of Sales Cloud, which is our long-standing kind of main product in our company for a long time. Service Cloud, which is a lot of passion I have in the customer service space, clearly, and then also our Essentials Cloud, so for small business. And I think about the opportunity for us to really grow the next great businesses in this country and around the world. Essentials is one of my favorite places to innovate. I think there's no more strategic path for our future than really making a great Essentials experience. So I own those three products. How it happened, I sometimes think a lot of good luck, but candidly, a lot of great support from the leaders that have embraced me since coming here only 3 years ago. I think I just bring a spirit of collaboration and accountability to this function that maybe was missing in the past.
Oh, people love you, man. That I know. No, it's true. I mean,
including
how many years have I known you?
This webinar is going decidedly in a strange place. How long have we known each other? I think probably 15 years.
At least.
Yeah.
And when you're Microsoft, people loved you. Salesforce, it's like even tripled over that. No joke, man. Every time I talk to someone, mention your name. Oh, Bill's great. I love Bill. Right? And I'm not kidding. Right? It's like
clearly haven't talked to my wife lately.
Well, no, I'm sure.
I'm kidding.
Actually,
no,
I just texted her to ask her that.
Look, I love everyone I've had a chance to interact with at this company and former companies, customers I've worked with, having great relationships with. And I don't know if there's one thing I always think about is technology can be surrounded by people with arrogance, and I've just never wanted to be that person. I think my job as an innovator is to give back to others, and it's one of my core values. Is if I can be helpful to anyone, I will. And that traverses company boundaries or customer boundaries, and I just know that we're on this planet too short. If anything, COVID-19 has told us. It's just there's too little time, and I want to make sure that we give back, to leave the world a better place.
Wow. With that said, I mean, it's right at the top of the hour. It's been a love fest, but unfortunately, you still like the Patriots. So I'm
again, look, the idea is, given this is the only show you'll ever be on, we have to make sure you get all the love you can get all at once. Right. So, Patriots. I'll tell you though, if the Patriots fire Belichick, then you're welcome back.
I'll put in a good word for you, Paul. Like I said, we'll see how this season goes.
I have one last question though before we go. Don't you miss baseball, man?
Oh, I do. Well, I tell you, I miss baseball. If there's one thing that I've found a real gift during this time, it's getting a chance to play catch with my boys. Just sitting out front outside our house. I mean, there's such a stress release for me to get out there with them. My youngest, Nathan, who is 11, has a wicked nasty knuckleball. So he's following in one of my favorite, with Tim Wakefield for sure. And my
nicest guy on the Red Sox.
Oh, it's. I mean, guys, I wouldn't, kind of BS you on this. It's got some. It's pretty amazing.
Is it Tim Wakefield speed? Like 11 miles an hour?
Actually, I would maybe my son throws harder than Wakefield, based on, what I've seen from Wakefield in my career. But, and then getting time with my daughter, I'm addicted to this show, Making the Cut on Amazon, which I'm sure you watch as well.
Don't miss
time with the kids, time with, my wife. There will be one gift that we will have during this time. It's just a little bit of slowing down, especially, with each other and family. So, while I can't be with you guys directly and in person today, I mean, I've always considered you both extended family for me. So it's great to be with you on the website.
Same here, man. Always. All
right. Yeah, that's great. You're still a Patriots fan.
Again, squeeze it in now when I get the chance.
But seriously, no, it's great to see you, and it's great to have you on with us. And looking forward to doing this more often. Hopefully, somewhere down the line, and we'll actually be able to do this kind of thing.
I don't do that kind of thing. You know that.
Yeah, I know.
I'll have to see if that stays in vogue, though.
Might not. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Fauci has anything to say, it won't be.
So since you're here with us, we're going to just wrap it up. So, I guess tomorrow, just everybody, if you're into this, sports, join us tomorrow for CRM Playaz Sports. What do we call that again? Excuse the intrusion.
Excuse the intrusion.
Excuse the intrusion. And be prepared to tell us who your favorite sports athlete of all time is.
So, and our guest tomorrow will be Clark Moray, who runs the sports vertical for Oracle, which, as cool. I found out, has, I won't give the number unless he does tomorrow, but dozens of teams that they are, which I did not know until today. They are embedded in.
Well, I just hope that he's not from like Boston or something, and
No. I already checked.
Oh, okay.
I did the pre-screen.
All right,
pre-screen's done. San Francisco Giants.
All right, I can deal with that.
We're good.
Right. Well, in the meantime, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and we will see you tomorrow, unless you're from Boston.